Well met, lords and ladies, Jacob Bardo speaking, and a warm welcome to this week's Walking Wednesday. First and foremost, I am okay. I am intact, all of my limbs are still in place, and, I sustained no damage to myself. I say this because I know that I'm definitely going to title this video something akin to, I crashed my car or something like that, so, just to get that out of the way very quickly. So, you're probably all still wondering what the heck happened. So, yeah, let me just set the scene for right now, and then I will get into that. So, this is Walking Wednesday 365, after all, so I've done enough of these to have done one day for every single year, but over the course of 7 years. And I was thinking, yes, would it be great, a 7-year anniversary, especially now that it's half term, would it coincide on the day? No, because I forgot to account for the, for leap years and stuff, so it doesn't actually fall on the same day at all. But even beyond that, I thought, hey, like for how I did for the 100th episode, I returned to the same area. Wouldn't it be nice to go up to, Liverpool or something? But, I've caused enough travel hassles this week. Case in point, the subject of the video. So, this was not the video that I had planned for, for this occasion, but hey, why not get into it? So, let's go ahead and do that. So, this actually happened on Thursday. So I was coming back from the longest of any of the schools that I now go to, which actually used to be the shortest, but, the one that they refer to as the regular club that I got from back then. And for that one, what I've been doing is, because ever since that time that I missed out on the that I was an hour late to the, I think it was the dress rehearsal for the pantomime, all the way back in January. I've made sure to try out any possible alternate routes, just in case I would need to, go over stuff again or try to avoid any and all congestions. The irony, of course, being that that actually on the way back, normally I don't need to avoid congestions, but hey, sometimes I have D&D on Thursdays or whatever, so, I've been trying that out to see which areas are the best. There's one particular junction in the town over, that's in the middle of the journey back, that I wanted to avoid, and my inbuilt navigation in the car always wants to take me down that route unless I, radically alter things. So that's what I've been doing. I've been thinking okay, so here, so if I go, to the, instead of turning right like it tells me to here, what if I go left again? Because that's where I came from anyway. Then it turns out it took me through a different direction, and I end up in a different road and avoid that junction entirely. There's another roundabout where, there's a sign that says to go to that same town. Same deal, I end up avoiding that place. But I also still have to turn right and do a bit more of an extra loop, so I do the left one instead. I've been trying that, basically. And I've been slowly approaching the idea of, well, if I just try to end up, on the big motorway that junction's for anyway, maybe I can just bypass that stuff altogether. So why not come back the exact same way that I normally go there? So going there is not usually a problem. It's a little bit of a tight bend around a certain from the motorway itself around the other corner, but I have figured out the best way to do that, and signal early to do all the important stuff. Make sure no one gets caught up in any and all shenanigans that may occur. It's a weird way to describe safe driving, but you know what I mean. And yeah, that road where you come off, it is technically a national speed limit road. So if you don't know, in the UK, the national speed limit on motorways is 70 miles per hour, and on off-roads it is 60. So even though the road is very narrow, you're technically allowed to go at 60 miles per hour. All the Americans are saying, nah, I would do that in 110 or something. I'm kidding. Obviously it's not ideal, so I never actually do that, you know. More often than not, if I'm trying to get there, if I'm running a little bit later due to congestions or something, then I might go up to 40 down there, you know. Most of the time, stick relatively close to 30, which is the exact same thing that I was doing on the way back. But here's the thing, on the way back down that same road, because it is most often used as an exit point rather than an entrance point, not that it's impossible to do because, you know, the navigation told me it wasn't, so there's just like a little bit like an extra loop round to get back on the motorway itself, which was the plan. But there's one particular part where it's just like, you know, there's basically like a house and then like a hill to go up to like a further residential area, but there's like one house that sort of like juts in the middle. So basically only one car can get through there at the time. Herein lies the problem. So while I was in the national speed limit designation, while I was still going like, you know, maybe I was at like 33 or something, you know. The other car that was, you know, just emerging from the motorway as I was just there, I don't know what speed they were doing, but definitely faster than me. So I, of course, you know, see the car coming. I brake, but then I also you know, shimmy into into the gap that I would you know, where the house like sort of juts forward, and importantly there was a certain rock that also marks the border of that. So, you know, so I'm there. I'm just about managing to slow down in the moment. I'm expecting some sort of some sort of collision to happen on my end, and then suddenly I hear boom from the left-hand side. So the passenger side wheel, passenger side tire, just completely burst in that moment. The other car was able to still get through. There was a car behind me that was sort of trapped in the way, and after a while of me trying to figure out like what the best thing to do was, with all the warning signals going off and everything, you know, the lady behind me goes like, "Can you actually move the car?" I was like, "I mean, I can try," because I was still, remember, there's still like the blockage area. So, you know, she was able to get through me, but then like somebody else who were coming through the other direction, because again, there's still a bunch of cars coming through at relative national speed limits. If you remember from my previous descriptions, my car is not exactly small, so it's not super huge either. But you know, that's so I was worried that, you know, at some point, okay, maybe that's what's going to like, you know, like scrape or something. More concerned for them, because at this point I was, you know, able to go out of the vehicle. My first instinct actually was, you know, there are definitely like a lot of like roadside assistance that you can call around here, but you know, I have to figure out what you're registered as. I do not remember if I'd actually done a registration or not, so I decided to send a WhatsApp to my parents very quickly, you know, explaining what happened in the most efficient way possible, and you know, just simply ask the question of, you know, who do I call? You know, Ghostbusters, whoever. So I did was I got out of the car, still in the position before I reversed and moved out the way, and I took a photo of the car itself from the outside, facing down to the tire, you know, and to the rock in question, to show, you know, exactly what happened. I said something like, you know, because there was some mention of my brother had about like tires or something. So I said, hey, speaking of tires, this thing happened, you know, I burst one of mine. Here's what it looks like. What do I do? More or less what I had said. Now I was being super efficient because I was fairly convinced that because this is such a remote area, that the signal would be pretty abysmal. And I was correct. It took a while to send that, or find a position where I can actually send it. I had to like go up to a residential area, hold my phone out at a certain point up the hill, and you know, get proper signal. So again, I tried to convey as much information as possible. You know, say a picture's worth 1,000 words. My intention was, you know, I'm taking a photo, you know, of the car itself, facing the car, so therefore I'm out of the vehicle, which means I have not suffered enough damage to be rendered immobile. My legs at least are working perfectly fine. I'm able to type coherently, so, you know, my brain isn't impaired. And yeah, basically that. So, you know, that was as, and I think I did also say, you know, like, I'm okay, but this has happened or something. I'm not sure if I did or not. Either way, I was trying to signify as much as possible that I am okay. I just need to know, who do I call? And partly it's because I know what's going to happen. Because in emergency situations, or like in like, actually even non-emergency situations sometimes, just like, you know, matters of general urgency, the preferred method of certain people that I message frequently is to switch over to a call. This also happened with my landlady in Galicia. Not that I ever had to use an emergency or something, but a lot of the time she either sent like a voice message compared to the text that I gave, or I would have to, or I had to find an area that was quiet enough in the school, you know, in a secondary school, so I could actually hear what she was trying to say. So there's a reason that I prefer to send text messages when possible in these circumstances, especially if time is of the essence, and at this point I haven't moved the car yet. I did eventually move the car, under the suggestion of another person coming the other way. I thought if I moved it, it might, you know, end up being like worse off or something. But it was okay. I just reversed it for a bit and then made sure people could actually go past in a timely fashion. And while I waited for a response, I was, you know, just hearing like vroom, vroom of everyone not knowing what was going on. So yeah, that's definitely a danger zone. You know, there are some like places that used to be national speed limits, where they've like reduced the speed to 40 there. I would recommend doing the same for that road. I chose a park today and I haven't had any hay fever medication. That was a bad idea. Yeah, so while that happened, you know, I naturally, you know, saw that I was getting a call, which I couldn't respond to because of the signal. So, and the message I got afterwards was, please answer the call. So which I said, please answer my question. No, I didn't say it like that. I'm paraphrasing here. But, you know, that is ultimately what I was trying to do. As it turns out, I wasn't registered with any sort of roadside assistance. We forgot to do that when we got the car. There was like a year offering for like the AA, which stands for Automobile Association, not Alcoholics Anonymous, if anyone's wondering. You know, not that that'd be a bad person to call in terms of driving sometimes, but anyway. So we could have done that, but we forgot to set it up, so I didn't have anything. They did though. So what they were trying to do was ask me, you know, to send them a 3 words of where I was, and to get the you know, and so they could come and then call their assistants to then, you know, so they could like track. It ended up being my dad's phone in the end, and find me. So I had to because again, it's a new phone, so I had to reinstall that app. But I managed to, again, after I found a different position that works slightly better for signal purposes. This is also going around through text message because, again, I didn't want the call to either cut out or have to deal with trying to hear them or something or anything else. I wanted it to be, okay, what exactly do I need? Here we go. I've got poor signal. Text please. Begin. Trying to streamline that. My intention wasn't to downplay like the worry of it or anything, but I basically had no choice at that point. As usual, the whole method to my madness situation. So yeah, eventually that all worked out. Messages did get exchanged once once I found like the proper signal or something. And then they both showed up. My mom drove away. There's no point like her waiting either. So in yet another car. So my dad stayed so he could do like all the details and such. I showed him the best areas of where to of what actually happened. I even like walked them through it. I was like, yes, here you go. Here, let me show you exactly what happened here. So this is what was going on. This is the thing there. That rock there, exactly where it was. But yeah, they not that I wasn't shaken at all, but by that point, I had calmed down significantly. Again, because I was able to see what had happened, or at least for the most part. We'll get back to that later on. But yeah, once the AAA person actually did arrive, they swapped the tire around, the one that was comically less dense, because again, not a small car. But they said, okay, make sure you only drive at 50 miles an hour limit, because that's how much this tire can last. Again, I was still shaking, so my dad did the driving back, and I went over all the alternate routes that I've tested over time, and he also, used Google Maps, supposedly because the AA person behind us who was following along would also going down the same route, and by this point I'm worrying because it's like, oh well, there's so many other ways. I normally go that way, but they say this way. Wait, no, you're not turning off here. It says to turn off here. Dad, what are you doing? Like, that kind of thing. But only because if we're following the same route, I didn't want the A person to think, okay, there's something else that's going to happen now. Like I've lost track of them. Not that I could actually see much of him anyway. Now that I think about it, but that was the worry that I had at that point. We did eventually get home. The guy jacked up the car again afterwards, and took the tire back, gave us the other tire, and eventually we had to find a replacement for it, obviously. So we know a local car mechanic. He's a family friend, so we knew exactly who we would consult first on the matter. And even though at this point it was Sunday, so I guess Friday and Saturday sort of passed without us knowing what was going to happen. But Sunday particularly, maybe it was Saturday, was like, oh, what have we got going on this weekend? Nothing. I said, no, it might have been the Friday, because I said, oh, what's going on the weekend? And he said, oh, I'm planning to not do much. And here we are, literally giving him business. So yeah, so we got the replacement tire, and then the mechanic guy wanted to, whose business I would shout out, by the way, but of course that would, kind of give away stuff in terms of where I am and such. So I'm careful with that. But yeah, he did a test drive, because he does our MOTs as well. So if you don't know what that is and you're not in the UK, the MOT is like the exam you have to do with the car every year after a certain number of years to make sure that it's still road safe. And yeah, so he does all of those for us, and And he took it for a test drive anyway, probably knowing how it's supposed to feel anyway. As it turns out, it wasn't just the tire that was apparently damaged. Apparently the chassis of the car is also wonky. He then showed us, what it looked like. Took a picture with the phone, and this was what it looked like, was what's supposed to look like. There's like a whole bar that's been like, fully like bent or something, which still needs fixing, and will not be fixed until this Friday, potentially, I think. It was Wednesday. I think that's the day we're supposed to, take the car over for maintenance, or was it Tuesday? I don't even remember exactly, but there's so many dates that have been thrown around, I got confused. But sometime next week, we're taking it to a repair place with as much caution as can be applied in such circumstances, on the grounds that, we on the grounds that we don't want to cause any further issues for ourselves or other people, and we'll see what happens if they're able to repair it in a timelier fashion or not. So I might have to be chauffeured around when I return to the business and las clases once next week. So yeah, been quite the week. You can see now why I wasn't going to be like, hey, I'm just going to pop off to Liverpool quickly on the train, see you in like a day. Not going to do that. So yeah, don't know when the next time, an occasion like that will come around or something. I mean, who knows? I mean, I might end up finally being able to go back to Spain next year and do that same thing. So able to like a Vigo special or something. You never know. Not to say that I'll be put in the same area or anything. That's a whole other subject for a different day. Not nearly as interesting as everything else. But just to reiterate, once again, I am okay, and what a way to do, the 7th anniversary of Walking Wednesday, day 365, that I wondered if I would ever, reach at any point, and here we are now. More of a case of, would I get bored or something, not would I suffer a worse car accident and not be able to, complete the walking part of Walking Wednesday. None of that. Just more of a case of like, how long is this going to last? How long are people going to, suffer through this before they get super bored of it or anything? Because I know that Walking Wednesday was a comfort to some people, especially during lockdown. Well, at least around here in the UK, there was still a rule of you're able to get out and walk at a certain point, like once a day, basically. Not sure how they ever were planning to enforce that, but yeah, that was the rule basically. So, I was able to use that, and also, not like I walked every day, because that was also still not the best idea during that time. But yeah, that was the plan, and a lot of people seem to really like that. I had somebody tell me once that Walking Wednesday was, one of the things to look forward to, just seeing like someone else's life, carry on with as much normality as was possible, and then afterwards, it was continued out of tradition from that point onwards. But yeah, there's always something. There's always like, different periods, kind of like the Spain ones, where it turns out it was all like, what kind of crazy shenanigans happened this week? I mean, I have said, because now I'm approaching the 13th anniversary of the channel, which I started at age 13, I basically, documented like half of my life on this channel by this stage. And obviously that shows a lot of differences in between certain points, or reaching certain moments and everything. What kind of eras have I actually gone through myself versus anyone else? So not let's say anyone else, but versus What stayed the same? What changed? You know, did I stay the same? Did I change? And Walking Wednesday has sort of become a part of that now. In a certain way, it's consistent, but the topics themselves aren't as consistent. You know, I still mention gacha stuff every now and then. I still mention Aphmau. I still talk about random things that my family members have no clue about, but even they decide to suffer through those for the sake of knowing what's going on. So as long as people actually do find enjoyment in this kind of thing, you know, it's I plan to continue it. You know, see how things go, and the same applies to, you know, my actual YouTube channel itself. So yeah, that's really what I was going to, you know, make this Walking Wednesday about. You know, I was going through all those different things, but as I said here, life has a way of surprising you with something, with you know, unforeseen things. And said unforeseen things might include a car coming off the motorway at national speed limit that you have to avoid. C'est la vie. So yeah, next time we'll go over something a bit more cheerful, I think. But for now, thanks everyone for watching everything for all this time, and please leave a like or dislike because your opinion matters, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And on that note, until next time, farewell.